Beam me up, Scotty.
So she had the child, and the child was a beautiful little girl. You know, didn't have to go to the beach to get a suntan. Abortion is a greater cause of death for African Americans than heart disease, cancer, diabetes, AIDS, and violence combined. About 40 to 50% of all African American babies are aborted each year.
Welcome to Project Nihilist. This is part 2 of a 3-part series, and I'm just going to pick up from where part 1 ended. But before we get into it, let's talk about Dr. Jerry's bio that I found over at creationscienceministries.com. Look at all this stuff. He's taught biochem, biogenetics, microbiology, geology, anthropology, and I'm wondering if I teach biochemistry. Isn't it a little redundant to say that I've also taught chemistry? The same thing for biology, right? I taught microbiology too. Fucking 101 classes suck. This dude worked for the guy who invented transistors, I shit you not, and they forgot to mention his name. Probably because it was multiple people. Dude has 800 publications in 8 languages. And remember from part 1, he's speaking the German, right? He's a Mensa member in any other place that's happy to take his membership fees. This list of crap is non-stop, but we have a video to get into. And let me not even mention the articles at the end of this list. Man, some of the articles are just so fucking far out there.
And of course, one of the strongest arguments against abortion is,
show me that grand boy.
They're innocent. And I'm working on a novel, which I think is a pretty good novel, but it's based on several true cases.
Sonny Dillon, I want every man in this camp on the line right now. Right now.
And it's about a woman who was raped by gunpoint. And to make it more complex, she was white and the rapist was black.
Daddy, give me my baby back.
Okay? And she wondered, should I abort this? All her friends said, oh yeah, abort it. She talked to her Lutheran minister and he said, well, what do you think? What's your thoughts? And she said, well, the child's innocent. He did something wrong, you know, it's a problem, but the child is innocent. He said, well, then go according to your conscience.
You laughing at me? You know who the daddy of that chocolated baby is?
Why is it these kinds of stories always sound like nonsense? Friends and families, they're the enemies because they want to murder rape babies. And the Lutheran pastors are definitely a hero who didn't guilt trip this woman into carrying around her rape baby. And rape isn't a big deal either, by the way. Jerry will explain that one to us.
Any fool can see that baby belongs to me.
So she had the child, and the child was a beautiful little girl. You know, didn't have to go to the beach to get a suntan.
Out of Pepe!
Here we are, 20 minutes into the lecture. We're past how World War II was a holy war. And Charles Darwin said it was his goal to murder God. And a white woman was raped at gunpoint by a black dude. And this beautiful black child asked her mommy, why are you white? Did you slip and fall into the bleach? I shit you not. Here, I should just probably play the clip for you.
The little girl in the story, the little girl said once when she was about 4, Mom, what happened to you? What do you mean what happened to me? Did you fall in some bleach? You're so white. What happened, Mom? Well, we'll talk about this later. So everyone loved the cute little girl. And
this is where it gets complicated.
But anyways, it turned out this story I think helps people get into the fact that even during rape, and by the way, vast majority of rapes does not conceive a child. Studies have shown the vast majority of rapes, the father is the husband.
That's such a great story, Doctor, because it illustrates how no one will ever resent their rape baby because all women are married and you can pretend the husband is the baby's daddy. I'm sorry, but if you think this is good reason to force victims of violence to give birth, it's not. People have a right to choose.
And there are many reasons for that, which I won't go into here, but the vast majority of rapes do not result in a conception. But the story goes, and my story is this one did. And it really is a story which helps us understand in more detail, not only the child as a result of rape, but also the complexities that revolve around these situations.
Of course, this thing called life is complicated, not easily quantified and put into these tiny boxes, such as all women who get pregnant through their own inactions might have other dreams and goals in life that don't include raising their rape baby. And everyone knows all women are married and that their husbands will love the rape baby. After all, the odds are it's his baby anyway, and everyone can just get over that horrible rape thing.
Roe v. Wade, the argument used was, it's not murder because when the abortion is usually performed, the human embryo is not a human. Rather, it is a fish, and you probably know where that came from.
I'll try. Hitler, Darwin, atheist, Marxist, China, or some dumb appeal to emotion that apologists use on small-minded idiots who've never had to raise a rape baby and easily get to ride the moral high road for free playing their Jesus card.
And the number estimated now about 45 million in 1995 alone, worldwide.
What did I just say?
And the number estimated now about 45 million in 1995 alone, worldwide.
21 gigawatts!
Random statistic from 30 years ago makes me wonder if Gramps hasn't aged a single day. In this hour-long lecture, are we going to talk about unviable pregnancies or the ones that are a risk to the mother's life? Of course not. All 45 million of these unwanted babies would have been adopted by great Christian parents, and none of them would have ever ended up in foster care because that isn't a thing. All women, they're able to take care of their children, even the ones who can't take care of themselves, and the rapists, you can totally count on them for child support.
So it's the major leading cause of death now in this country. We're very concerned when during the past week, we had 2 shooters who shot, 22, I think, and 9. So we're, for good reason, concerned about that, but yet how many people are concerned about abortion?
Jerry's supposed to have all these degrees and all kinds of shit. So this stupid whataboutism where living people are being killed by psychos with guns being equivalent to abortion is nonsense. See, the day the rape baby is born, it has human rights. Before that, it's special pleading. And this is one of those idiots who say that babies are being aborted after they're born. I need to stop cutting in every couple seconds because otherwise we're going to be all day getting through this video, and I apologize because there's so much I want to get to still.
And there we can see fetal growth, 9-week, 12-week, 16-week, 20, 24. When do you say it's no longer a human?
Jesus Christ, he's tiny.
This idiot is about to go on a huge tirade about a guy who used hand drawings to show the various stages between embryonic development between various species. And then he uses this propaganda nonsense of a fully formed baby progressively getting larger. And the title says, fetal growth from to 40 weeks. From to 40 weeks. Come on, dude. Like, did you not read that shit?
Some people might say, well, here. Well, no, right here. Well, no, right here. It's arbitrary. The most consistent definition is from day one. And to me, that doesn't look like a fish.
Since when are you performing at children's parties?
Performing? What?
And my grandson studied evolution in his biology textbook. His biology textbook said things like, why is evolution true? Because we have about 100 organs that have no function. The appendix, the tonsils, the adenoids.
Do you ever think about taking one of those little pills? Cyanide? Oh yeah, I do actually.
The thymus, the thyroid, etc., they have no function. And I read that, and that's not true.
A recurring theme in Dr. Jerry's lectures is about his family feud with his 10 grandchildren and how they all buy into that evolution bullshit and he's powerless to save their souls or something. Remember, this guy's a doctor and he used to be a batting for the atheist team, and then he's seen the light and he can't grasp the concept of vestigial organs.
I've written a whole book on that, so I mailed a copy of the book to my grandson. My son called me up and said, look, he's got to get through school. He doesn't need to be fighting about these things. And I took the book away. I don't want him to read it. Let him believe in evolution. It doesn't matter.
I mean, hell, the Constitution is taped, and it's never stopped our current administration.
So all my 10 grandkids, and this, by the way, is so common when I go to creation groups like this. I have a lot of grandparents there who are there because they're concerned about their grandchildren. And therefore, what can I do? I don't want to upset my son.
Keep in mind, Jerry's only reason for denying evolution is that he can't reconcile it with a literal reading of his religious doctrine. That's it. Everything lived forever until a couple of immortal monkeys ate fruit in a magical garden, and his all-knowing God couldn't see that one coming from a mile away.
Right? And it's, in a sense, it's true, as my son said. You want him to have trouble? Just put down the answers.
Just put down the answers.
Dude doesn't give two shits about what his grandchildren know, and he pretends that his son is on his side, and he has some delusional obligation to defend his children's strife. All of this is nonsense.
What's the function of the appendix? It has no function. Get your grade, go on to college, move on, and don't argue.
When I was a boy,
Oh, here we go.
my father told me to bang my head against a rock, and I did it. I thought it was crazy, but I didn't question him.
Speaking of wanting to bang my head off a rock, the hypocrisy spewing out of this guy's mouth, as if everyone who doesn't parrot exactly what he says is obviously indoctrinated, and a real education is twisting all the evidence so it fits with this narrow world view.
And that is so, so, so common. My own grandkids. What do? You do what you can. Okay, what can be done? One thing that can be done is, I know most pastors spend their time covering the missionary journeys of Paul.
Why is it when this preacher, and that's what he is, tells a story, they always sound like bullshit? Creationists believe in some mild form of evolution, and all grandparents always and forever have whined about the younger generation. Here's what really blows my mind. This academic, all he has is, "Nuh-uh." I'm wondering why. Why is that? He talks about this theistic evolutionist, and that's a huge no-no for some reason. Jesus, he'll only love you if you deny reality the way Jerry wants you to.
And now we have photographs, many, many photographs, and this will be 13 weeks.
Breathtaking. I shall call him Mini-Me.
And anyone who stepped on that on a sidewalk wouldn't lose any sleep over it.
And this, as I mentioned, the ultrasound photographs have been a major factor in changing people's mind relative to abortion. And at 13 weeks, now that's not the best picture. Actually, there are others that are better today, but I didn't have time to search them, and I'd have to get ones that I can have permission to use.
You see that ICR logo in the corner? That's a creationist propaganda organization, and these ain't actually ultrasounds. This is some artist mock-up trying to trick your brain into acting on your feels. We all know it has the potential to become a baby, and ultrasounds are things doctors use to determine conception date and viability. Its primary purpose isn't to trick mothers. Jerry's just pulling all this shit out of his ass, and go use the internet, you shithead, if you got better pictures.
And they're about 4 weeks. Clearly a child. It's not a fish. And you have to be blind to say that was a fish.
See, you gotta fact check these idiots because they've got no qualms about lying. That's what it looks like at 5 weeks old. Jerry wants you to think.
And they're about 4 weeks. Clearly a child. It's not a fish. And you have to be blind to say that was a fish.
The only people in the history of forever who say that humans are fish are idiots who can't comprehend that, like fish, we have spines encasing a nervous cord that attach to a brain. Creationist copium snog sipping says, of course, God, Jesus used a common design, but that doesn't mean that there's a relationship. After all, we're God's special monkeys made in his image. Their entire faith is built on a house of cards or a hill of sand.
And there you can see twins at 9 weeks. And no question, it's a human. And their embryo at 18 weeks and 4.5 months. And you can see, again, the details are enormous. And again, they have better pictures now. And I just couldn't get my hands on it. And I just couldn't get my hands on it. The cause of death in the United States, number 1 is abortion, 2 is cancer, 3 is heart disease, and 4 is other abortions.
I'm sorry, did you hit your head when you fell out of the idiot tree? How are you including a cause on a list twice? Grandpa Jay is standing there reading his own slide. Did he not notice he included abortion on it twice? What is the other abortions? I think I know where he's going with this. A couple of days ago, I murdered like 300,000 babies. Some of them were just weak swimmers who swam around in circles.
What's the plan?
The plan is I'm gonna stay here forever.
Okay, good plan.
So, for other purposes. And they've declined significantly for a number of reasons, which I won't go into.
Headed right for Poker's Cove. Poker's Cove.
Of course, we've got time to talk about this other shit, but we don't have the time to talk about that because if you did, you'd sound even more idiotic than you already do.
Abortion is a greater cause of death for African Americans than heart disease, cancer, diabetes, AIDS, and violence combined. About 40 to 50% of all African American babies are aborted each year.
What did you say?
About 40 to 50% of all African American babies are aborted each year.
What the fuck did you just say?
About 40 to 50% of all African American babies are aborted each year.
I like her, and I'll take her. Oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. There is a one-day free home demonstration.
Oh, yes, of course.
Does anyone remember part 1? I sure as hell don't, and this might not even be in there, but 1/3 of Mr. J's family is black, and that isn't even the point. Did he just say 40 to 50% of black women who get pregnant get abortions? That's insane on so many levels, and if I have to explain it to you, you're already a fucking idiot, and there's absolutely no hope for you. You're just another victim of the idiot tree, and you keep falling out of it and hitting all of the branches.
And if you know much about Margaret Sanger, who I have a whole chapter on.
That's a violation of the law of Lorentz invariance, baby.
Light 'em up.
Oh no, not an entire chapter, you dirty boy. Dear Penthouse, this is my story where this woman is burning in hell for all of eternity. Stay tuned.
She wanted to reduce the inferior races. And one way she felt to do that would be abortion. That's why most abortion clinics in her day, as well as today, are in minority neighborhoods.
Leave me my name!
My mom will bring up Marge and 1 or 2 quotes from her books that she's never read. She'll say she advocated for eugenics, and I'm like, even if that's true, what about this other stuff? Reproductive health, birth control, STD prevention, neonatal health care, freedom. She says, wow, I never thought of it like that before. And she's getting old, she NPC resets, and someone mentions abortion or Planned Parenthood, and she's like, Sanger should have just stayed in her own lane. There is this innate disdain for this woman who fought for women's reproductive rights, who, by the way, refused to do abortions most of her career. She was prosecuted for one of her books and fled our country, the United States, for Britain. In 1916, she was arrested for distributing information about contraception to an undercover cop, a woman. She didn't want women having to go to back alleys and get abortions and advocated teaching women about reproductive rights. And these fucking religious zealots can't abide any of that, and they smear her name to this day, lie about the woman so other women won't learn about her and what she stood for. Thank you, Nurse Sanger, for what you've done for hundreds of millions of women. You really are the best, and you should get credit where credit is due.
Because this movie needs to have an Annie killed a baby but not really scene. And there's a don't walk sign. This is not New York, lady. There are rules.
Because that reason, she was pretty open about that.
Grandpa prattles on for a couple minutes with this incoherent nonsense, and we should just get to the point, right?
The abortion case were before the Supreme Court today. I think that they would rule the opposite.
A concern of mine throughout this video has been, is it from 1995 or is it from just a couple months ago? And he already knows that the Supreme Court rolled back Roe v. Wade.
In introducing the information to the Supreme Court, which was a factor, if not an important factor, that cause them to rule against the rights of children.
After I fell off my toilet, I do this.
And Darwin agreed that he was trying to murder God. Darwin was a God murderer, and that's why Project Nihilist is saying this silly stuff.
It's me, your old friend Darwin the dolphin. Think of me when you smoke DMT.
And here's the pictures, and you've probably seen these before. These are Haeckel's, Ernst Haeckel.
I put your picture away, edited out that copyright claim, yay, yay. We're all over the place, jumping from rando to rando, saying, look it's the bad guy, Marge, Jim, Van, Ernest, they all totally sucked. Trust me, bro, I have bullet points in entire chapters. You can buy one of my books for $12 or two for $20, and you get a free gift with every purchase.
Got any prizes in that meat there, Captain? Friend, I got soap with a prize inside.
Who, by the way, influenced Adolf Hitler a lot. His work did, at least. And you can see here the pictures. And at this stage, you can see they try to make them look like they are, well, less than human. In fact,
I've been fueling up on Coors Light and Jim Beam Black. And after this show, I'm gonna go do a little more of that.
Could it possibly be any more clear that this so-called biology teacher doesn't have a fucking clue what he's looking at? If you read the caption, it says, this is 8 embryos going through 3 stages of development.
Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it. Thank you.
as we see, these are Haeckel's fake drawings, and these are the real embryos. Now Haeckel, I'll show you some pictures, he was a really talented artist. I doubt if anyone in this room, I might be wrong, but anyone in this room had nearly the talent that he had in art. So you can't tell me he just didn't see things clearly. Because this is what he saw. We know that because that's what it looks like today.
You notice that thing Grandpa was pounding that? Haeckel admitted to cutting that part out of his drawings. And if you look at all of Grandpa's other drawings, for some freaky reason, all that part is omitted from his drawing. And why do they both kind of look the same? I mean, I'm not sitting here scrutinizing them, but, you know, those are pretty fucking good on top. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We should be focusing on that.
And this is what he drew. That's a forgery. Okay, it's not a distortion. Well, it's a great distortion. It's so great it's a forgery. And you can see all the way along here.
Oh yeah, we can just look around here and see what's going on. Cool. Maybe you could tell me in that real embryos you've got going on there, what's going on in that bottom right-hand corner? That's supposed to be a real human, right? I know, it seems like it makes a lot of sense, but there was a time that microphotographs didn't exist. This Haeckel guy drew this shit from staring in the hole in a shitty microscope that was probably reflecting light. And how dare he look at multiple species and draw with ink? What was this fucker thinking? How fucking dare him be limited to the technology of his time? Look at these mushrooms this asshole drew. They're larger than life, and they look like mushrooms, so this fucking son of a bitch, he must hate Jesus. Look, see, he hates Jesus. See, Jesus. Geez, Darwin hates Jesus. He tried to murder God.
So sometimes it looks like people do, and sometimes when they're born they have what looks like a tail, but it's not a tail in the sense that animals have tails.
Creationists can't stand the fact that embryos across various, not species, maybe classes, probably families, are almost indistinguishable from other embryos at the same stage of development. They hyper-focus on the term gill slits, but none of them bitch about the scientific term oxidation, even though we know rusting metal, for example, isn't turning into oxygen these days.
And sometimes when they're born they have what looks like a tail, but it's not a tail in the sense that animals have tails. And here we can see the different stages of the embryo development. Now during the first day, of course, it doesn't look much like a child, obviously. But how many women know they're pregnant the first day that they are pregnant? How many women know that?
I'll never get why these kind of people get so upset when you tell them that we're animals. This guy was a biology teacher, remember? Oh, no, we're not. We're fallen sinners, tattered rags, unworthy in God's eyes. But we're super special, and he loves us anyway.
Some might, but quite often they don't know it until first there's often denial.
Look at how this idiot can't even add up numbers right. You got, say, 23 to 26 days, and he doesn't go 27 to 30 and then 31 on. He's got 26 to 30, and then 28 to 32, followed by 31 to 35. Oh, I almost forgot. Pregnancy's like the 5 stages of death. There's denial and bargaining and acceptance and pleading. You gotta plead when you're pregnant. You plead to Jesus and you say, Jesus. That kind of sounded like the guy from that Disney movie. He's like, did you drink? That's nitroglycerin. You didn't drink the nitroglycerin. You better just stand still. That was nitroglycerin.
You didn't just drink that, did you? That's not good. That's nitroglycerin. Don't move, don't breathe, don't do anything except pray, man.
Couldn't be pregnant. I use birth control regularly. I couldn't be pregnant. Or I use other methods of contraception. Well, we know that those other methods, even birth control, is a certain percentage of failure. I don't remember what it is, but I think it's about 2% failure, which is not too bad. But on the other hand, if you have sex 100 times, where's our mathematicians here? 2% failure, 100 times sex, you're going to end up sooner or later with what they call a condom baby.
That just sounded really wrong, okay?
That's not how odds work, and I question one's education or integrity when they say something so dumb.
Shut your mouth, or I'll kill you.
Can't even believe he just used the term condom baby. Oh, man, did you hear about Jeannie? Yeah, bitch got a condom baby. She fucked 100 times, and now she got pregnant twice. She got 2 babies, and she's only fucked 100 times. She wore rubber every single time it happened, but, them fucking condom babies, they're some persistent motherfuckers, dude.
Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair.
Okay? And so a woman is pregnant and doesn't know it. So by the time she's sure she's pregnant, we're talking about over here. We're talking about development has proceeded to the degree where it's clearly a child.
The majesty of creation lies before us now.
And so now some women know earlier, but many women don't know exactly when they got pregnant. They just know that.
We shall behold wonders heretofore unimagined.
Yeah, I am now, and the doctor says it looks like I got pregnant 2 months ago. Okay.
Okay, that about wraps up my introduction.
And this film was excellent, unplanned. If you can show it in your church, it's not gory. It explains what's going on, does a very good job. It's extremely tactful. You can even bring kids there. But they do bring out, for example, when they do an abortion, especially by curette, they have to make sure they got all of it. And they have to count the arms and the legs and so on to make sure they got all the parts.
How much? Stay still. Hold my arm, but you can't wiggle. Want to get done, don't you?
Is it, though? Should you really play this at church and show it to children? Does it explain what's going on, or is it like everything else he cited in this lecture, and it's propaganda from an intellectually dishonest position? Why not teach children about safe sex and birth control? You got to remember, these idiots are against condoms, and they lie about the morning after pill.
Just hold the probe in place so I can see what I'm doing.
It just moved away from the catheter.
They always move. That's why I do it this way.
Because if there's one arm and 2 legs and all the other parts are there, there's an arm left in there and they got to go back in and get the arm out. So they do mention that, but on the other hand, it was really well done. And here's one other, Gosnell, excellent.
Sir, the actors are here to audition for the part of you.
Excellent. Excellent. It's obviously pro-life, but on the other hand, they do a really good job.
Excellent.
Tactfully explaining what happened. And by the way, I read the story of this person.
Next.
Exactly.
Have an exclusive clip. Take a look.
With larger fetuses, they remain intact.
Of course, because the head's bigger. Makes it more difficult. What do you do then?
We use a machine to suction out the gray matter.
The gray matter, the brains.
Lord of Light, protect us!
Please, Father!
The light is dark! and full of tears.
So you suction out the brains, and then what happens?
Then the skull collapses and the fetus can be removed.
Right.
And by the way, I read the story of this person, and the film is really accurate.
Right. And by that logic, the Harry Potter movies are an abomination. Remember earlier Gramps was worried about copyright infringement, but he has no issues using Haeckel's artwork in a line about the man and what he stood for. Haeckel died over 100 years ago, and you won't find a creationist alive who doesn't whine about the dude. Well done. Well done, Ernest.
Okay, abortifactants, pharmaceuticals, and they put chemicals in there which burn the baby.
Abortifacient.
Okay, abortifactants, pharmaceuticals, and they put chemicals in there which burn the baby. And they actually cause a severe burn, and it kills the baby, and then it's delivered. It's rejected.
I hate pounding on this same drum over and over and over, but it's not a baby, and saying it burns it is intentionally deceitful language designed to trick people emotionally. This guy's supposed to be a mega intellect, and in his paradigm, the morning after pill causes the uterine wall to turn to ice, and the baby can't stick the landing. Murder, murder, they're trying to murder God.
And the concern has been, can the baby feel pain? And again, if you're not sure, assume the baby can.
I agree. Babies feel pain. Fetuses in the first 2 trimesters don't have fully developed brains or consciousness to perceive pain. Like the good doctor said, a woman probably doesn't even know she's pregnant day 1. But that doesn't matter. His plan is no birth control and absolutely no abortions ever for any reason, never. And luckily, this guy, he was an atheist. And he went to church when he was 5 years old. Doesn't actually give a shit about women and children. He's just hyper-focused on what goes on between a woman's legs.
And so a concern is when the abortion occurs, is the baby going to be suffering in pain? And I guess, to be honest, we don't know for sure. There's some indication they do suffer pain.
To start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys.
But on the other hand, you don't assume they don't unless you know for sure they don't suffer pain.
If that's your only hang-up, have you heard the good news? These idiots cut the skin off baby dicks shortly after being born, if not days to weeks later, and nobody gives a shit if it hurts. We could talk about why and when pain is perceived in a conscious brain with a fully functional nervous system, but I get it. Dude wants to minimize suffering, like with rape victims who get pregnant, and he's writing a fictitious novel he said is based on a true story, and instead of saying 31 people were shot and killed, he's making it sound like a point spread. It was 32-9. Man, I gotta beat the spread. Point of clarification here. I'm the only atheist I know who endorses circumcision for hygienic reasons. Not some silly oath of fealty, just the possibility that soap could become a luxury.
And then surgical abortions, vacuum aspiration, you basically vacuum it out, you pull it out. And they have a vacuum which is 27 times stronger than a home vacuum cleaner.
This isn't easy for me. I know we've been together a long time, but I found somebody else, okay?
Is it though? Seriously, is it? And your point's what? I'm sitting here counting my blessings that I haven't accidentally sucked myself off. I mean, up in a vacuum sweeper.
I'm in love. Don't look at me like that.
What can anyone do with that info? Like, should we be using abortion machines to clean our homes?
Trying to look fly as fuck, but not get fucked? Flowbee. So easy to use, even the mentally challenged can do it. Yeah.
We could still be friends.
And it's done only during the first 3 months because otherwise the baby's too large to do this. And therefore that's a problem. But during early stages, it can be pulled out. And the problem with all of these techniques is what?
Yeah, that's it.
What's the main problem? Hemorrhaging. And what data do we have on that?
I did not see that common twist ending.
Hemorrhaging. And what data do we have on that? Well, not much, because when the mother dies as a result of abortion, it's often not recorded as caused by abortion.
My stories never end like that.
Yes! 2 stories in one night!
Did you hear about that recent story where a California girl, and you know how me and Snoop Dogg like California girls, she had a problem with her wanted pregnancy. She went to a Catholic hospital bleeding out, needing an abortion. They were like, fuck it, let her die. They offered to call her a helicopter, and she's like, I don't have $50,000. And they gave her a bucket and towels so she could drive herself hours away to the next hospital.
Turn it up, because it's getting heavy. Wild, wild, West Coast.
They'll say hemorrhaging, cause of death.
These are the girls I love the most.
Massive hemorrhaging. And they won't go into detail as to why. And so we don't have accurate details.
I said don't disturb you, I'm cleaning my room!
And part of the reason is that there are so many people who are emotionally connected to the right from a woman to control her own body, that they just can't deal with it.
I'm not sure where that growling demon sound is coming from. And hello, pot, meat, kettle. Of course I'm emotionally attached. The difference is I ain't using an old dusty book as an excuse to be a closed-minded idiot whose nonsense fails on every level with the most elementary school analysis.
And by the way, I should mention that the baby is not part of the woman's body. In fact, one big question, I just pulled an article out which I brought. One big question is why doesn't the mother reject the fetus? Because it's not part of the mother's body.
Get in my belly! Come on! That's so dumb. Why did you just say those words out loud? A woman's body doesn't reject a baby because it's not a part of her body. Seriously, dude, where do you come up with this nonsense? I mean, I really want to know.
And sometimes the mother will reject the fetus.
Well, Lottie frickin' da! Of course, we call it a fetus when it naturally dies. It's not a baby woman. Don't cry over some spilled milk. There's only 22 minutes left in the lecture, so if you made it this far, I'm sorry, I suck as a content creator. And I hope to see you in part 3.
What's the matter, Mom? Cockroach! What? Cockroach!
Let me handle this! Win Scar!
I've made many statements to family and relatives that I refuse to be around her. I believe she's demonically possessed by the Jezebel spirit. So I don't want her around me. There's a visceral reaction that I haven't felt around a person in many years. If I'm from here to her, I want to throw up.
If you made it this far, I think that guy's fucking delusional. He's insane. And this guy coming up, Professor Dave Explains, a couple of days ago, he obliterated this argument about Haeckel's fake drawings. I'll leave a link in the description, but it's pretty damn good.
This all leads him then to embryology, where he shows Haeckel's fake drawings. And this should be the stake in the heart of David James' professorship.
Oh my gosh, I showed the thing that all creationists are conditioned into flipping out about, even though they have no idea why, so that I can specifically explain to you how dumb you are for doing that. Oh no. What Haeckel correctly showed was that all chordates go through a phylotypic or pharyngula stage, where the embryos of animals as diverse as elephants and sharks look extremely similar.
Yeah, Doug, I guess I'm not really surprised that his image, the one he uses, is from Haeckel's fake drawings.
Yeah.
Well, they aren't fake drawings, they're just drawings. Do you know what a drawing is? This is what embryos look like, as can be confirmed with modern imaging technology. This claim you're referencing with text here is an objective fact. You're saying absolutely nothing, and then just flashing photos from a bogus creationist study that misrepresents animal embryos. Like this salamander embryo. This bloated beach ball thing is the yolk sac. It's not part of the embryo. Haeckel's drawings were all done of embryos without yolk, allantois, and amnion. And of course, this is all right after showing a clip of decent length where I explain how embryonic development makes zero sense in any context other than evolution, and you completely ignored it just so you can whine about Haeckel with zero basis. Pathetic.